Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on this Monday afternoon. I'm Yvonne Rodriguez. I'm the Director of National Programs at the Surge Institute. And if you don't know what the Surge Institute is yet, don't worry, we're gonna talk about this. But for now, I just want to say thank you for joining us for our webinar entitled "4 Critical Moves to Accelerate Your Leadership." Here's what we're going to cover. As I said, we're going to cover who is Surge and why is Surge offering this webinar. And then we're going to talk about 4 ways that leaders of color can accelerate their leadership. And we've got some leaders that are from the Surge community to share their experience and wisdom with you. So that's going to be really great. Then we'll also talk about opportunities to activate your greater impact. And that, of course, is going to be about our Surge offerings. And then I'll offer you a reflection question about how you want to accelerate your leadership. And I'm hoping that we're going to have time and interest for a Q&A. So first, who's Surge? So we're a nonprofit organization, a national organization, been around for 10 years supporting Black, Latinx, and AA and PI leaders of color in education. And our mission is to educate and develop leaders of color who create transformative change for young people, their families, and our broader communities. And so we actually have expanded our mission in the last couple of years to go beyond just the education system, because we understand that there are multiple systems that impact the quality of life of our people. And we have this vision to be the preeminent pipeline addressing the dearth of the leadership of color at decision-making tables. As you know, we are underrepresented there. We are underrepresented in places where critical decisions are being made about our kids, about our families and our communities. Who is Surge for? So, of course, we were looking for leaders that are aligned with our mission. We are looking for people that want to make transformative change. People who have worked in education, people are looking for like a way out of the complex systems and a way to meet up together to create real change. So, of course, leaders who want to be a part of a growing, nationwide, bold, and innovative community that is determined to close the gap, finally, as soon as possible, between what the current landscape is and what the hopes and dreams of our people are. And we have this vision, and this is one of the reasons why we're doing this webinar. We have lots of people that participate in our programs, but we want to get beyond our current community to grow our community. We have currently about 600 leaders participating at Surge, but we have a goal of reaching 5,000 by 2030. And not just participating in programs, but empowering people with the skills, the tools, and the connections they need to manifest their vision for change. We want them to be positioned to work collaboratively to achieve impact. And we want to see systems transformation on a national scale. And as I mentioned, across multiple industries. And as I also mentioned, we've been doing this for 10 years and we have a record of success. We started in Chicago 10 years ago, branched out to Oakland, and now we're in multiple cities across the country and growing. And in our latest program evaluation that was done in 2021, this is what our alumni and program participants said. 86% of them said they define a clear purpose and vision. All of these are as a result of participating with Surge. They're leading more authentically and being more bold. They have more confidence. They're advocating for themselves more, and they're leveraging the networks and social capital that they've gained while at Surge. So all of this happens, and we'll talk more in detail about our offerings later, but we have a number of programs and networks, and all of them are based around what we call our 4 program objectives, or we call them our critical objectives. And this is what we're talking about when we say the moves. What are the 4 moves? And I'm going to tell you about those right now. So the first one is to really know the landscape. Leaders need to understand historical context and know where the levers of change are in this highly politicized and complex, inequitable landscape. And this is especially important because so much has changed in the past couple of years. What have we learned in the past couple of years? What's it like on the ground now for our community? That has to inform our strategy. So it's always important to not just, like, I've studied history, but to constantly be in contact with people on the ground, with our families, with our communities, and to understand how things are changing. And they're changing every day, and it's getting a little hectic. Um, the next one is to dream big. Dream big. It's sort of like leadership 101. Like, what's your vision? How do you want things to be? And it's important to level up our vision at this time and have the courage to redefine what's possible, to dream big, reimagine, recreate, all the things we talk about doing. But now we're saying, like, we've got to, like, do this together, and also connect with our communities to understand what are they longing for, so that we can build a shared vision, right? We don't want to be like others who will just create their own vision and impose it on everybody else. We want to build that together. And this starts with the ability to be visionary and to organize, inspire, and lead others towards that vision. The third one is focus inward. So this is so important. We have to have a commitment to growth and think about, in what ways do we need to heal, to develop, to grow, in order to lead with others and move from what the current landscape is, and to manifest that big dream. How can we more fully own and strengthen our gifts? At Surge, we invite our program participants and alumni to do the internal soul and heart work of healing. Our communities need our leaders to show up authentically, to be comfortable in their own skin, overcoming any limiting beliefs that are hindering their ability to shed those masks, and to overcome doubt, and to show up in their true genius. And the last one is make an impact. So we got to flex our skills, and leadership is about getting something done with others. We can't just study the landscape, dream, and focus inward. We need to engage the community and actually bring about change. And our program participants and alumni develop executive management and leadership skills to accelerate their impact for the children and for the communities of color that they serve. So those are the four critical moves. And as I mentioned, we have some really great people that have come on to share with you how those things manifest in their leadership and in their work. And we're going to do three of those. And at the end, we're all going to talk about Know the Landscape. So the first person that I want to call up is Dr. Leslie Salinas. Dr. Leslie is a community school manager in Oakland for the Unified School District. She's also a Oakland Surge Fellowship alumni from 2021 and a Surge Angels alum from 2023. So I'll tell you about those programs soon. But for now, Dr. Leslie, could you please come up and share your wisdom with us?
Thank you, Yvonne. Well, hello. Yes, so when I think about dreaming big and the Search Institute and the experience, I really think about not only dreaming big for yourself about what you as a leader are capable of, but reimagining what our communities deserve and doing that in community. And so coming into Surge, I I was already serving the community, and I knew my vision was to continue to serve families in particular because we cannot support kids and create change in students when we don't address families. And so for me, my big dream was around how do we support newcomer communities, people that were recently migrating to this country, to really support their arrival and their transition. And so in community, I was able to develop my capstone project as a fellow that turned out to be my own nonprofit organization called La Casa de Jenny, that is a newcomer navigation center here in Oakland. And so dreaming big as a leader for me was important because I was able to see myself as more than I could imagine, right? Doing it in community also lifted up a mirror of other leaders that I admired, right? That saw things in myself that I was like my vision was blurred in the day to day, and they really allowed to highlight that for me. And more importantly, it was really about creating reimagining things that were intentional, right? We don't want to just create programs, organizations, solutions for the sake of doing it and checking the box. We're really imagining what do our communities deserve, what do our people deserve, and coming from a lens of wanting to serve, to empower others, not just to fill our own cups and check our own boxes and elevate ourselves as leaders.
Mhm.
Lastly, the thing I think most importantly about dreaming big in your work as a leader is also helping others dream big for themselves. So, as a result of my own being able to dream big for myself and my own community, I've been able to support my colleagues, my own the immediate teams at work on what does that mean for them, right? What does that mean for our school that we redesigned in the midst of the pandemic, right? And helping them elevate their own leadership, their own entrepreneurial skills, because it's not just about me and my community as a leader, but it is about the people that I work with alongside with every day
Mhm.
that really supports that.
Great. Thank you, Leslie. And I'm curious, how do you intentionally continue to grow in this area in dreaming big?
I think for me, in the last couple years, it's been really about where am I now and constantly thinking about if the solutions I'm creating for other people, right, are what is the fine tuning that it needs, right? Like, what is the reflection that needs to happen? And also learning from others' places, right? As a community school manager, um, it's going to other school sites and visiting, like, what do these school sites show me about what's affirming of what's happening at my site, and what are the opportunities I can take away from, right? Um, and continuing to invest in my own personal development.
Mhm. And one other question, because I'm really excited about your project, what are, specifically will you be doing to support newcomers, and how are things going to be different?
The biggest key ingredient that's different for us is about supporting newcomer adults or young adults, right, in their educational and career development when they arrive in the US.
Mm,
So, really supporting the attributes that they come with and really empowering them to be able to figure out, okay, you're an accountant. This is what a CPA in California needs. What do you
mhm,
already have? What is missing? What is the route to get that? Oh, you're a teacher. This is the validation courses you need to take. Or, oh, you just want to get a GED. Here's the process,
mhm,
right? And really empowering them to be career and educational uh, ready in a way that doesn't always fit the narrative of people come from other countries uneducated and not ready to participate in the workplace like anybody else, and
mhm.
they're just assumed to be able to only take labor on jobs.
Got it. Yeah. And I just wanted to note, as I mentioned, everyone, um, Leslie is an alum from our Oakland Fellowship, but she's also participated in Surge Angels, which supports entrepreneurship and innovation. And this has been really an innovative idea that you're building. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
So next, we want to look at focus inward. So I want to bring to the stage Tylisha Hooker, who is the executive director at Boost West Oakland. She is also an alum from the Oakland Fellowship from 2019, which was the year that I first joined Surge, and so she was part of the first cohort that I got to support, and which is one of my favorite people. Come on up, Tylisha.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, and thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. I definitely want to share more with you about focusing inward. I was really excited when I joined Surge and saw this as one of the core, values and ways in which the organization will move, because so much of my leadership in my own journey has really been focused on being inward. Um, for me, focusing inward is all about intentionality. It's sitting with myself. It's a way of life, um, in which I just take time to sit and reflect. It's not always pretty the way that things happen with that intentionality, but it's really honoring that voice, that guiding light on the inside of you. So for me, my journey with education began with teaching, which is very interesting. I remember myself being in my 20s and being like very idealistic that, I can just change the world if I was able to get in front of a classroom.
Mm,
And I love music. And so, Tupac always said, or has this quote where he says, I may not be the one to change the world, but I can influence the mind that will.
mm,
And I was like, you know what? Legally, kids have to come and see me. And so I'm have the ability to just like change the world through education. And my assignment as a teacher was kindergarten. And I thought, wow, of all the grades to teach, when I want to change the world, y'all would give me kindergarten. Like, this is so interesting. And so I studied, I took all the tests I need to take, all the exams I need to take to become a teacher and teach kindergarten. And I realized, you know what? This is exactly where I needed to be. So part of that and that realization and that journey came because a lot of the times when our young people go into the classroom, I think there was a study done by another Surge alum who did the study about how Black boys come into the classroom in kindergarten OUSD, and you see these pictures in the yearbook, and they're all smiling and so happy. And by the time they get into the 12th grade, those pictures look vastly different. And so I wanted to make sure that the conditions within my classroom can keep my kids smiling throughout all those years.
mm,
And a big part of that too was connecting with their parents. And so in my classroom, I began to not only work with my students on what they needed to do academic wise, but also holding academic parent teacher team meetings so that my parents can understand what they were learning. I also got hit with the curriculum around citizenship and what does it mean to be a good American, and I
mm,
was teaching in the Fruitvale in Oakland, and there was not a white student in sight
mm,
for a while. My classroom really felt like the UN, and so it made me really begin to think, how could I take what we're learning around this idea of citizenship and really broadening the minds of my students? And so I created a social justice curriculum for kindergarten students, and I was just feeling like I was on top of the world. Like
mm,
everything is going well. I have this like perfect life. I'm killing it as a teacher. I'm doing the things. And um, it also felt really important for me. I guess I should also name that I'm born and raised in Oakland, just a true daughter of the city, the community. And a lot of the stuff that my students and even the parents were facing, I was facing too. And so I will hold space for my students. I will hold space for the parents. Within our classroom, we used to have our community circles where families were welcome to join us on Fridays. And, just really creating a safe container. And then in 2017, my whole life shifted. My youngest brother was killed in a fatal car accident. One of
mm,
the slides that we opened up, you all got to see my community, a sea of young people, um, a sea of family members who just loved his life so much. And to have him taken at 15 was the hardest thing that I've experienced up until that point into my life. And so it caused me to go inward. It caused me to go in with myself and think about how I was leading, who I was leading.
mm,
And, you know, one of the things that I constantly stepped with my younger brother was the friends that he would hang out with. We were vastly different. When I was in high school, I was the class president. I was, going to all the meetings after school. I was focused. I knew college was my portion. I wanted to go and I wanted to do that. And my little brother, he questioned everything. Why? Why do I have to go to class? Why do I have to wear this outfit? I want to wear these jeans. I want to grill. I want this. I want that.
mm,
And, I would constantly sit with him like, you got to learn how to politic, man. Like, you a black man in this country. Like, how you show up is so important. Like, getting good grades, all this, and that. And so when he passed away, I think the most surprising group in which I found comfort was in his friends. These were the young people who wore the baggy jeans, who had the grills, the gold ones, uh, diamond fangs, the kids that smelled like weed as soon as they walked in my grandma's house, and the people who I would constantly tell him to stay away from became the people that would comfort me and my family. And so I had to sit with myself again. How have I judged these people in which the community that I came from? How did I judge my brother? How was I not listening to him and the needs of him and his friends when he would ask me, can I take this friend with me on to this college tour you want me to go on? No. Like I was just so quick to be so dismissive
Mhm.
of, the type of student, the type of friends that he would kick it with. And in reverse, at my lowest moment, I found them to be the most comforting group.
Mhm.
And as I began to look around out of my own depression and sadness, I realized like y'all have actually been here for me both emotionally but also physically. When are y'all going to school? Like what's happening with y'all? And a lot of the students will tell us like we don't feel comfortable at our school. Like our friend was murdered and everything is just business as usual. They want us to just go to class like nothing has happened. Students were getting suspended. They were fighting. They were being quote unquote defiant, talking back to their teachers. And so much of it was I realized that the school did not have understanding of
Mhm.
the trauma that our students were facing, that they went through a collective community trauma. And even for the funeral, they were getting threats that if they went to the funeral, that they would be suspended. And if they had too many suspensions, they might get expelled. And it's like for grieving. And so when focusing inward, I decided during our fellowship, I'm like, I'm going back to college. I want to get my master's degree in understanding the way that trauma impacts the brain and how do we work with young people who have been faced with community trauma? How do we support them in high school and even at the younger level, just on a K through 12 spectrum? And so I began to do work. We started the Quanware Collective, working with young people in the city of Stockton to figure out ways to advocate for themselves. At the school board, we've been able to really push like some policy to make sure that they have not only guidance counselors, but trauma counselors who will come to the schools to meet with students, talk to students, and just give that outlet for students to have the ability um, to come and to grieve. And so that has been just so like impactful in my journey, working with a lot of young people through the summertime to teach them, in addition to advocating at the school level, how do we advocate in the city? How do we change systems for students, not just in your school site and not just in your neighborhood, but across that spectrum? And it's been just such a beautiful thing to witness a lot of those young people now. We have kids that's the same age, just so interesting. But they're growing up. My baby started out as 15, 16, and now they're 21. They have careers. They've joined the army. They've started out in college. Like just seeing just the wide range of these young people who were considered the most non-traditional type of leaders in the city at the time, have now grown into this like massive class of just amazing people.
Mhm.
And as I conclude, I think the last thing I want to say, as I continue to focus inward and I continue to think of education, another thing that has affected me. So I typically use my life lessons to figure out how I lead.
Mm.
And so for me, that is just so important, right? Like I integrate me in my leadership. If there's ever a time and space in which I feel like I need to pivot, I will. And the most beautiful pivot has happened. I got the most uh, full of personality, brilliant daughter that I could have ever dreamed of. Her name is Mylisha. You can see me right there wearing that hat that says mom. I wear that title so proudly.
Mhm.
And as I've, begin to fall in love with the process of what does it mean to be a mother, so much has come up for me in terms of healing my own inner child. Um, in terms of just the spaces that are needed for Black parents, for parents of colors. Like we typically don't have a safe space when it comes to conversations around conscious parenting, gentle parenting,
Mhm.
looking at maternal health rates. We're seeing, so many Black mothers not make it through giving birth. We're seeing Black babies not make it. And once the bus hits us, is right around the corner for so many of our Latina sisters as well.
Mhm.
And so I've been just really moved to, launch healing facilitation circles, hold spaces for parents. And all of it is in the name of education and providing a safe space for our people.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story, Tylisha. Thank you. And there's been so many ups and downs, but your focus is always like on like what about our people? And what
Yes.
else can I do? And how can I look inward to develop myself so that I can even do more. And now this beautiful little girl who I've met is just like really adorable. And but this is just a key example of why, like at Surge, we are looking to put forward our Black and Latinx and AAPI leaders, because we believe that we need leaders who are from our community, who understand our community, who they are able to be more responsive to the actual needs of the community, of like what you saw those young men, what they were going through, and then you went and like studied more, and now you're holding space for community to also focus inward. And it's just a beautiful story. Thank you so much
You
for
got it.
sharing it. All right, so stick around. We're going to bring up now Uric, Mr. Uric Shannon, who is a alum from the Chicago Fellowship from 2020. Everybody remember 2020? Who is currently one of the many alumni who have come onto the Surge staff and are just like really like showing some incredible leadership and giving us all new perspectives on getting the work done. So he's now the executive director of the Surge Chicago Fellowship, and he's going to come on and talk about Make an Impact.
Hey, Vaughn, thank you so much for the great introduction. I always feel really odd when folks are introducing me, but you did an amazing job. And now I feel like the pressure is on. But I am actually really excited about making an impact and then following, focusing inward, because a lot of times folks think that making an impact is really about the goals, the numbers, right? But when I think about making an impact in a space of what it means to be free or liberated, it comes to the quote from Bell Hooks. It talks about liberation is not about changing the world, but about changing ourselves and our perception of the world. And so when I think about what the type of impact that I would like to see in the world that is steeped in freedom and liberation, is that I want my people to see themselves, to believe in themselves, to love themselves and love each other. Because remember, we have to believe it first. Validation is not needed. Life is not like Instagram likes. And so filters are for photos, not for your self-worth, right? And so when I think about Carmita Saman, our founder and CEO, she often says, we can't lead anybody to their breakthrough from our brokenness. And so when we talk about making an impact, the impact really starts with yourself. What have I been able to unlearn and relearn and realize and accept around my own strengths and gifts and my ability to show up in the world to really change it, right? You can't wear a veil and try to change the world. It's really heavy. And we wonder why folks are like either burnt out with work or not taking care of themselves or don't feel fulfilled. It's because we haven't taken out the time to truly love and appreciate ourselves before we can go out into the world and really make the impact that we would like. And so when I think about the importance of this, even in my own leadership and work, it definitely takes me back to my childhood of being the student who wanted to get it right. Like I was like, my parents are not rich. They're working too hard. And I have to get a good education. I have to make my parents proud. Neither one of my parents graduated from college. And I was a first generation college student, but also like now a first generation professional. But I just always remember just being a kid, having to strive for perfection and show that I can do it. Most of the time alone, right? Like I didn't need a team to do it. And I can showcase that I'm the smartest and the best in the classroom. And it wasn't until I started my career as a third grade teacher, which is a very humbling experience because third grade's got a lot of personality. And at that age, like they know school, they like school, and they can take care of themselves. But I didn't want to put into them what was kind of pushed into me around like my early independence and ultimately how I showed up in the world as an adult. I realized that I could not make the type of impact on the students that I had in front of me every day alone. I needed a collective. I needed not just my colleagues inside the building, but my community outside of the building to really help motivate and inspire and allowed my students to be courageous when it came to work. And so, like others have shared, I used to have things called Math Mondays, and I honestly did not care who they sent to the school on Mondays. It was mama, daddy, grandma, auntie, cousin, neighbor, mama, boyfriend, whomever, somebody to show up at the classroom, and I would teach them how to become teachers of the lesson that they would learn that week.
Wow.
And we probably started off with about 3 student folks who showed up for students, and then by the end of the year, we were at about 75% of my students had somebody who cared and loved for them to show up, and we would, order food and do all the things. But it was a way to really draw them in as partners in this work, and not, again, have to do this alone. And you saw exponential impact of students were performing better, and our families felt more confident around, how do I support my child at home? Like, they felt like an expert, like they could become a teacher. And so from there, like, Surge was another big critical area for myself around when I think about doing this work as a collective to have the impact that we would want, because these are fellow dreamers. And so Surge poured into me. It poured into my dream of one day creating my own organization, which I ultimately co-founded, called The Liberated Way, which is an organization that supports, as opposed to like district-wide school turnaround, I really don't like that term, or rather school revitalization. We take school communities on a journey alongside their teachers and leaders and district leaders on how do we set, what is our North Star? How do we then implement for the North Star that we want for the students in our particular community? And then how do we hold each other accountable through continuous improvement to see the types of results that we would want for students? So no longer the burden just rests on the superintendent or the principal, but a collective of the community. And from that transition of 30 students in my classroom to Liberated Way impacting over 60,000 students across 8 different cities, has continued in my work in an exponential way as the executive director of Surge Chicago, where I get to support our fellows. And now Surge is impacting over 3 million students. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about that level of impact, one, it had to start with the belief in myself, seeing myself, loving on myself, helping others see themselves, love themselves, know that they have community, know they have a collective, folks that want to be in community and support their dreams. And now we get to do this at a major scale, and looking for us to continue to grow that. And so I take these skills that I learned inside of Surge, whether it's our hard or executive skills like communication, negotiation, and finance, to our heart and soul work as well, around like, what is radical joy? How do we play and live in creativity as adults, and even out through our executive coaching? And so now I get to support those freedom dreamers to unlearn, relearn, and realize their greatness in the place within this movement. And then, like, just as I'll close out, I just want folks to know that, like, Surge, whether it's the Academies or the Surge Fellowship, it is literally just the beginning of your journey. Surge is a lifetime commitment of a collective. And so you never stop learning. And I'm fortunate and lucky to be in this role. I get to sit in sessions every month and literally relearn and become an expert in these areas where most folks only get one time inside a session to collect that information and find other ways to continue to absorb information. But the way I continue my learning is I never stop reading. I never stop learning. When somebody offers a book to me, I get it, I read it. I also take care of myself mentally and physically, whether that's through self-care or radical joy. One thing about me, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna play, and sometimes a little too much. But also being able to sit inside this space with Surge. And I just know that the learning that happens inside of Surge and the Surge experience, we're just gonna make it better and better through programming and revenue generation, so that we can ensure that this remains the preeminent leadership program for educators of color in this country. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Uric. And now, as I told you, Uric is at Surge, and so I get to see him on Zoom all the time, and it's so fun. Like, when you said radical joy, I'm like, that is Uric. That sounds like you. So I just love that, and I love how you what you talked about making an impact is first starting with yourself, but also understanding, like, you don't do this alone. You want to make an impact, you can't go it alone. You can't be that hero, and so and that you taught the community to teach math.
I surely did.
Because I'm teared up there. Like I'm just wow, that's beautiful.
I got sick and tired of hearing everybody say, I don't know how to do this new math. Well, let's learn together. It won't
So
be new for too
you
long.
definitely practice what you preach at every level. And I can also say that since he's come on, and I feel like I'm leveling up because I gotta like live up to like what Yurik is doing, because he's really making things buzz at Surge. So thank you, Yurik.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to bring everybody up. Let me see. Just for like a quick recap, these are the critical objectives, but we didn't really talk about know the landscape. And so if we could bring everybody up, is that possible, to be able just to speak to that? What's important about knowing the landscape? Isn't it enough to have a vision and to organize people? And what does it mean to you and your work? Oh, I see everybody's here. I was like, is everybody coming up? Oh, they're here. Okay. And just feel free to jump in.
I just got done talking, so I'm pretty sure they want to hear another voice. I'll let one of you ladies go first.
That's what Yurik and I are always saying in meetings. Well, I've already talked a lot.
I think for me, about knowing the landscape, what really helped me in the concept of knowing your landscape was being in a collective of people that wanted to do something differently, right? We wanted to serve in a different way and create an impact that was not based on the structures that are currently existing, right? And so knowing different people at different places, different leaders, that was really, really helpful, especially in the scope of Oakland, right? So the experience I've had in Oakland, right, connected me with amazing leaders that now I collaborate with, right? That I am able to sit on boards with, they're able to sit on my board, right? And just really create a more meaningful impact because we're aligned, and both have like knowing other Search alumni in these spaces really makes a difference because their value aligned.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. And we are in many, many cities across the country. So there's networks being built locally, but also nationally. And thanks for mentioning that, Leslie.
I can tap in next. So I think when it comes to alignment, I think that was like a really good word that I had in mind too. So when it comes to knowing the landscape, a lot of the work that I have done and as have did has been in communities and cities in which I've been a part of and know like very intimately. But I will say one of the things that I found, just across the board, I've also worked in Atlanta and in DC, and part of that is kind of even going back to like focusing inwardly. It's like
Mhm.
when you are just so secure in who you are within yourself and you present in truth, it is so much easier to connect with other lights. So whether it's people, through Surge in the community or other folks that are doing the work, it comes together. And once you can establish that trust in that community, from there, you dig in. And so for me, I'm really big on community. I'm never going in as an expert on anything. I really keep on a learner hat. Um, I want to hear from everybody. Like, what's up with the kids? How are the kids feeling first? Who are we serving? I want to know how the parents are doing. Who's everybody's favorite teacher? What's up with the lunch lady? Like, I really get to know so much of the community. And just by having conversations, standing in my truth of who I am, folks are able to then open up themselves as well. And then from there, we do the work.
Thank you. Wow. Some themes going on here.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be the only Chicagoan on this call. So I know we all felt like our homes are very special. Chicago is very complex when it comes to education. There are some very unique things about Chicago that are critical to know if you're going to be in this space here. Like, we're the only city to have local school councils where you literally have an elected board at every school in the city that contracts the principal, approves their budget, approves their strategic plan. And so really understand the nuances of the complexities of our city that are built into legislation, right? Like you can't change that. That's built into the state code, or our mayor appoints our superintendent and also the board members. And now we're going to have some appointed board members. And so knowing those things within our landscape are critical for our fellows to navigate. And I'll say that we also take that as to understand that all the folks within this landscape play an important part in the movement. And so whether you're internal at the district or at the school level, or you're a community organizer, right? Or you're a part of the progressive group like our very strong teachers union here. All of these parts and folks play a critical role if we want to see movement within our movement. And so we make sure that, understanding and knowing the landscape allows you to do that, but also allows you to know that you play a particular role in the movement. Because I will tell you, as smart as I think I am, and as many degrees as I have, I do not know it all, and I'm not trying to do it all because I'm a little old now and I grow a little tired faster. And so I need all those other folks to take up in the places where maybe I'm not the strongest, and I can lend to the spaces where my natural gifts and talents are. But like the others have shared, I got to know all these folks, understand my landscape so I can see the system, and then being able to target how we want to either dismantle, change, disrupt, and rebuild those systems that have not served folks and kids and families that look like us.
Right. Yeah, that's. I'm moving in my seat because like when you talk, you make me want to like take some action, and I think just for me, like understanding that there are systems. When you think about my own, even with my own experience, I got a PhD in physics, but I'm not. I left the physics world, and but I internalized a lot of things about whether or not I was, am I smart enough to be a physicist? Am I, there's all these things that we internalize. And then when I got to work at Surge, I understood, like when you go into the academy, you go to the Science Hill, or you go to the other side of campus where people are learning like history and social justice. And we were kept separate. And so at Surge, like I learned more about that. So I understand my experience now, and I'm not internalizing it as much as I did before. And I'm like learning how to deal with the anger that comes out because of it, and understanding that there are things that, we can't have Band-Aid solutions because these are complex systems that we're working on. And so being able to, because I was a program director in Oakland, so I feel like I've been to the fellowship a few times myself. And so like learning about like knowing the landscape and understanding all of that is something that made a huge difference for me. Thank you. Y'all might as well stay up here on the stage. I just want everybody to take a screenshot of these reflection questions. We don't really have time to go through those now, but just wanted to, after hearing these stories and learning about our framework at Surge, like the critical objectives we have for our all of everything that we do, which of the four most resonates with you as you're watching this live, or maybe you're watching the webinar, which we're going to be making available later. In what ways do you need to heal, grow, develop to activate development in that area? And what would be a sign that I'm moving in the right direction? So those are just reflection questions. We don't want you to just like hear the stories and then, going back to work or whatever it is that we all need to do, but really being able to like integrate it a little bit. And very quickly, I want to tell you, like we've heard a lot, and the speakers today have talked a lot about Surge. And so I want to invite you to check out Surge as well. Some of Uric has been in this the Surge Fellowship, which is a cohort-based experience that connects, accelerates, and empowers leaders of color in education, and as I mentioned, in other industries as well. And so these four critical objectives, these four critical moves that we've been talking about, that's what all these programs are based on. We also have a 6-month program, and this is when I said that we've been expanding and growing, like these are all the new cities since Chicago, Oakland, and now Indianapolis, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Washington, D.C., Las Vegas. Like we're in your community. Surge Angels is what Dr. Leslie was talking about. She went through the fellowship, and once you're an alumni, you can apply for Surge Angels, where we actually take your ideas and make them happen. Like for Leslie to be talking about helping newcomers figure out, like, how do I get my credential in this country so I can continue to be a lawyer, continue to be a doctor. That's really innovative. And in fact, she won the big prize last year at Surge Angels. We have the Black Principals Network. This is relatively new. And one of our alumni, Tara Shawn, runs this as well. As I mentioned, we got a lot of alumni coming on, but the Black Principals Network is dedicated to empowering and supporting Black principals nationwide while also serving the community. They've got actually a cohort program within the Black Principals Network, but also lots of stuff going on throughout the year that you can take part in. Power Surge is a new program at Surge where we're bringing in high level leaders, CEOs from across different industries to come and also like to be restored, to collaborate, to develop their skills, and also to talk about like what's next for our communities and what's next for social justice. And as I mentioned, like everybody that's been in these programs are part of our alumni community. And we have another alum who's running that. She's the vice president of alumni engagement, Tiara. And there's always stuff going on. In fact, we even have a biannual convening. So everybody from across the country comes together. Here's a group shot we took last time when we were in New Orleans. So there's lots of stuff. We're not going to get into it too much because, of course, I want you to go to our website and learn more. So you could visit our website, surgeinstitute.org, or you can attend an event. You can go to surgeinstitute.org/events. You can also apply for one of our programs. There's the URL for that as well. And also, if you want to see this webinar again, we'll have it online. You can watch it again. You can forward it to other people, but definitely keep in touch. Right now, we have 3 programs that are accepting applications: the Chicago Fellowship and the Detroit and Philadelphia Academies. So you can see it on the crawl there. And that's it for today. Any last words, alum?
I mean, I would just say if you're thinking about applying for Surge, do it. Like it was game changer for me, and I'm pretty sure it was game changer for those other on the panel, my Oakland sisters. And so if you're thinking about it, just do it. So attend an event, reach out to us, email us. We will make ourselves available to talk to you about the program in much further detail. But if you're thinking about it, you're already here listening to this webinar. There's something inside of you that is telling you to do it. And so don't, sometimes you just got to listen to that gut feeling to do it, right? All right.
All right. That's the executive director at Chicago. Thank you. And you can contact him at Uric at Surge, or you can also contact me, Yvonne, at Surge, or go to our website. You'll see all kinds of staff there that you can talk to. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your leadership. Bye, everybody.